spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. We have an extra special debut episode today. It is Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. We are live on YouTube and on Twitter, and we are debuting a Power Rankings draft. I've got none other than Jimmy Ray of the NFL Stats Twitter page at NFL_stats with me. We're going to do it draft style. Jimmy, are you ready to get this party started?
I'm ready. I love some good power rankings.
I figured before we get started, we'll quickly give each other, the audience, kind of like an overview of our methodology, if you will. So real quick, how did you put together your rankings? And obviously it's going to be draft style. We are going to take turns starting at 32 all the way up to 1. So the rankings you have prepared might differ slightly than our final rankings, but just for your own individual rankings, how did you kind of go about that?
Yeah, I mean, for power rankings, I think you have to take a lot of factors into it. I think taking into these first two games is important, but you really have to have kind of a short leash on that. I think you can't take, certain teams are 2-0, certain teams are 0-2, because the schedule, there's only two teams they've played against, so they could have played against bad teams, good teams. And then you have to look at the potential as well. I think looking at the potential of the teams and where do you think they'll be at the end of the season, I think that's kind of the most important part of what you're looking at. And each week it kind of changes a little bit, but I think power rankings are pretty hard 2 weeks in. You have to take into account what you saw last season, their additions,
off-season draft, coaching staff, all of that. I know one of the things that I took a look at was how they performed against certain opponents. So I'll give one specific example, and then we'll jump into the rankings themselves. Okay. The Vikings looked phenomenal on both sides of the ball in all aspects of the game versus the Packers in Week 1, and then got demolished by the Eagles in Week 2. Is that a reflection of the Vikings being bad, or are the Eagles just that good? The Packers also look good in Week 2. So I tried to kind of factor those in. Record, yes, comes into play a little bit, but opponent, how good I think that team is compared to the other teams. At the end of the day, that's how I ranked it. So we are without our producer, Anthony. So when that happens, I do double duty and I produce the show as well as host it. So if there's any technical errors, I'm going to be winging it here. We got a graphic we're going to do for the rankings itself. But I would say I'm ready to jump in. Jimmy, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to have the timer on my phone. I do not have the physical capability to man the timer if there's no producer, but I'll try to give you an update when there's every 5 minutes or so. But with that being said, 30 Minutes of Football debut power ranking show with Legit Football starts now. All right, so what I'm going to do, Jimmy, and I already prepared you briefly before we got on, is I've got this tiered system, tier maker system we're going to use. There's not a great platform out there to generate power rankings, but I wanted to have something visual for those that are watching either live or watching this YouTube video later. For those of you who are listening, we'll try to announce these picks and kind of give brief updates. We are sticking to the 30-minute timer, so we're going to jump right in. As the guest, Jimmy, you have the first pick. We're going to start from 32 and go on up. Who do you have for the number 32 worst team in the power rankings going into Week 3?
All right, the worst team I have, you can go ahead and put the Panthers up there. The Carolina Panthers, when they're already calling for the head of the coach before the season and then it doesn't look good into the season, it's going to be bad. They're 30th in passing, 20th in rushing on offense. Their offense really just can't do much. They have Christian McCaffrey, but he can only do so much. Baker Mayfield, he's had small spurts here and there, but still nothing to really contribute. You can already see that Sam Darnold might end up playing at some point. They might end up going back and forth. Their defense is mediocre overall. I just don't think they're going to win games. I think there's going to be an interim head coach at some point this season.
Yeah, you've got we're aligned here right off the bat. I had the Panthers at my number 32 as well. You look at coaching. Rule's had 2 losing seasons. He's in his 3rd season. He's already started 0-2, and it hasn't been against great opponents. They lost to a Browns team who just lost to the Jets, and then they lost to a Giants team who, yes, is playing great under Dable, but not anybody's idea of a juggernaut. Not a great start. I'm aligned with you here. Let's go on to number 31. I have the Chicago Bears, and I know that they won in week 1, but I think there was a few factors to include there. One, that weather, more than anything, completely neutralized. It would neutralize the Buffalo Bills at this point. It really evened things out. Even in that game, the 49ers were in control of that game until there was kind of a broken play where Dante Pettis got open. Justin Fields threw 11 passes last week. Their defense just could not stop either the run or the pass against Green Bay. Their offensive line, in my opinion, is one of the worst in the NFL. Fields has very little time to throw the ball. There's not a lot of bright spots. There are, if you're a Bears fan, some great young talent. I like what their rookies have done so far. So, hey, there's arrow up. Matt Eberflus has actually got this team to play better, but I still think they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, so I've got them at 31.
We're 2 for 2 right now. I have them at 31 as well. They
Nice.
have. I know they
We
had.
did not share.
Yeah.
We did not share our rankings with each other.
No.
Good start.
But yeah, they have like 153 passing yards in total so far this season. I know they had a monsoon season the first week, but the second week, it just kind of shows that that's not their game plan. David Montgomery's playing pretty well. But I mean, they traded away some stars this season, so obviously they're not looking to win right now. So 31 shouldn't upset too many people. It's kind of expected so far this season. And Justin Fields, I hope that they give him a chance to show what he's got. They need to have him passing more at some point.
Right. All right, on to number 30.
All right, so for 30, I have the Texans. So
Okay.
they had some hope before the season, but overall, this past week they didn't really show that much, and I think tying the Colts, and the Colts already showed that they were lackluster. I think that their offense could do a little more. They don't have a lot of playmakers on offense other than Brandon Cooks, and Davis Mills needs to step up. But overall, they just don't have a lot of talent on the team as a whole. But I think in the future, I just don't think they're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, they were a team I was higher on than a lot of people going into the season, and they've disappointed me a little bit, especially on offense. Davis Mills actually looked really good to end the 2021 season. Brandon Cooks is one of those receivers that just like clockwork will get you 1,000 yards, and I liked the drafting of Dameon Pierce. They had a lot of kind of middle-of-the-road veterans. I thought they would be better than they've been so far. They did tie the Colts. I don't know if that says much. I did not have the Texans at 30. I had them slightly higher, so we are finally differing here.
Yeah.
Let's keep on rolling. Number 29, I'm going to go ahead and put, this might be, some people might have a little higher. I'm going to put the Commanders at 29. Okay. I know that they've put up points, but it has been very much the Carson Wentz experience personified. You had letting a Jacksonville Jaguars team back in, and Jacksonville played, we'll see where they finish on the rankings. Laying a complete absolute goose egg in the first half against the Lions, only to finally show some signs of life. Pair that with one of the worst defenses so far through the first 2 weeks of the season. I just don't think there's a lot to like about Washington. Yes, they do have some playmakers on offense. Yes, Wentz will get streaky, but he's shown that he will have the bad Wentz and the good Wentz. So from an excitement standpoint, they might be fun to watch. But as far as quality of roster, quality of teams, I've got them at number 29.
Yeah, I had them a little bit higher just because I think they do have some awesome playmakers on offense, but Carson Wentz will go up and down. So I think the power rankings might go up and down as well, but I think overall they'll stay in that general area. And Chase Young's still out, so the defense doesn't show too much. But Carson Wentz did show. Jahan Dotson, I like what he's kind of showing.
I do like the pieces on offense. Yeah.
So yeah, and Curtis Samuel, he's been a surprising upbeat guy, so I'm glad he's having a good season as well. But yeah, I had him a little higher, so we're differentiating there as well.
Good. It'd be bad. It'd be a boring show if we agreed on everything.
Right.
All right, let's hear from you on number 28.
All right, 28, I have the Falcons. So I was pretty low on them heading into the season, and I think they've shown that they're going to continue to be pretty mediocre and towards the bottom of the league. Kyle Pitts having 4 receptions and 38 yards so far this season just kind of goes to show that they're not scheming correctly, not putting him in place to make plays, because that's what he's good for. And they don't have many people that will make plays as a whole. They have some people on defense like Terrell and Jarrett that could potentially help them out throughout the season. And they are technically top 10 in points per game right now, but I still think they're going to be a very mediocre team this season.
Yeah, I do have the Falcons slightly higher, not much higher. I like the fight that they've shown. They were in control of that Saints game for 3.5 quarters, and they fought back against the defending Super Bowl champs and almost pulled out their own 28-3 exorcism. Came up just short. I'm with you on the Pitts thing. It's very confusing. I don't care if Arthur Smith says it's not fantasy. Like, he is a very unique athletic talent at the tight end position. You need to use him more. Moving on to number 27. I'm going to go ahead and put the Seahawks. I actually had them ranked a little lower than this, but just that's the nature of the draft. Once again, this was kind of like Chicago. I think we got a better idea of what Seattle's going to be like this season in week 2 than we did in week 1. You had that hyped up home crowd with Russell Wilson returning. You had Pete Carroll really understanding how to defend Russell Wilson. You had a very Pete Carroll ball control, slow, methodical offense, and top it with Nathaniel Hackett just having a bad coaching job in week 1. I think that's why you got that Seahawks victory. So I know they're 1-1, but just absolute no show. The talent level was so obvious against the Niners, and I think that's the Seahawks team we're going to see more often than not this season. That's why I have them at 27.
Right. I had them around there as well. And their only touchdown this past week, I think, came for a special teams touchdown. Mm-hmm. And their rushing game so far has been very lackluster. They only have 112 yards combined, which is last so far this season over the first 2 weeks. So I think being one-dimensional never works, especially when you don't have a lot of talent makers. And Geno Smith, he shows flashes here and there. He has some good games, but as a season-long QB, he just won't get the job done.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually by their lack of running, because it's not necessarily an efficiency thing. If you watch Rashad Penny in that first game against the Broncos, he actually looked really good. Yeah. And then they gave him almost no carries in game 2, I guess because Kenneth Walker was available. So yeah, Seahawks 27. Number 26, on to you.
Yeah, this will be interesting. I have the Colts all the way down there as well. I mean, this goes to show that certain facts just take priority, and their first 2 games have been very poor. As my team, I've been very upset with how they've been playing so far. The offensive line, they just haven't schemed correctly there. They've letting pass rushers right through. Matt Ryan doesn't even get a chance to throw it. The wide receivers aren't open. Their playmakers just aren't there. I know they didn't have Michael Pittman this past week with the Jaguars.
Or Alec Pierce.
Or Alec Pierce, yeah. But losing 24-0 against the Jaguars, not anything against the Jaguars, but that just won't get the job done. I know they do that every year, and they're in the AFC South, so they do have a chance to go up eventually, but I need to see something from them. And looking ahead, they have the Chiefs, the Titans. I mean, It's just like those were the 2 of the easier games on their schedule, and they just didn't show anything except for like 1 or 2 quarters in the Texans game. So what are your thoughts?
I had them at 27, so but I had the Seahawks lower, which is why I didn't put them at 27. So yeah, we're pretty closely aligned there. Just as bad a start as you can get. We've seen some power rankings out there with them at 32. We have got about 5 minutes until halftime, which means we've got 20 minutes total. Let's try to speed this up a little bit. Yeah. I want to keep talking. I don't get, we're both kind of going on and on. This is our first time doing the power ranking show. We'll get more efficient. Let's move on. Number 25, I am going to put the Cleveland Browns at 25. And that was where I had them in my rankings, so that makes it easy. This is a team that I mentioned earlier had to squeak out a win against who we have as both have as our number 32 team, and then they just lost to the New York Jets with, Joe Flacco at quarterback. So as long as Brissett's the quarterback, the run game looks great, but the defense actually has surprisingly not looked that good outside of maybe Myles Garrett. Jadeveon Clowney is now out. And it just looks like this team is just not energized to play. And obviously they've had a lot of offseason distractions.
Yeah, a lot of offseason distractions. We'll have to wait and see how things change as certain people come back. And I know Jacoby Brissett won't exactly be a playmaker for them, but they have Nick Chubb, so it's fun.
All right, so on to that is from fantasy perspective. Chubb's doing great.
Right. Yeah.
Number 24. All
right, 24. I had the Jets.
Yep.
So that makes sense. The Jets just squeaked out a comeback win as well with Joe Flacco at their QB. They're passing the ball a lot. They're not really giving any chance for Breece Hall and Michael Carter to make plays. But Garrett Wilson, he's been showing up, and being this high in rankings with a lot of solid rookies on your team will help, I think. And And I think the game against the Bengals this week should be very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be telling for a Jets team that played well, at least for the last minute and a half. But I think we're in agreement there. I had them exactly at 24 as well. Let's keep it rolling on to number 23, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this is a team that I could honestly see climbing these power rankings as we do this every week. There's a lot to like. Doug Peterson has brought a lot of stability. Trevor Lawrence, with arguably his best game as a pro, went 25 for 30, about 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, just very efficient. Not a lot downfield, but he took what was given to him by your Colts team and, arrow up so far in Jacksonville.
Yeah, their defense, their pass rush is pretty good. And the other Josh Allen, he's also very good. So if you're named Josh Allen, you're destined to succeed so far in the NFL.
Trayvon Walker, rookie first overall pick, already
Devin
looking
Lloyd,
like he was worth it. Devin White, absolutely.
Devin
Lloyd, yeah. All right, let's keep on moving. Number 22.
All right, I have the Steelers. So no TJ Watt this week. They had 0 sacks this week, and I think they're in that range of mediocre teams. And I think people are already calling for Kenny Pickett to at least get a chance. We'll wait and see on that, but I just think they're a mediocre overall team. And Najee Harris only has 115 yards from scrimmage so far this season, so that won't help out your team at all.
Yeah, that offense looks stuck in the mud under Mitchell Trubisky. I think he was averaging 5 yards per attempt or something. It was really low. The offense is just not going anywhere. And a defense that is good, but without TJ Watt, noticeable step down. I had them at 21, so really close here. I'm going to put the team I had at 22 next, and that is the Giants. And this might be a little controversial with the fact that they are undefeated. And look, I'm a big fan of the Giants playing well. They're an exciting team to watch. I always like when new coaches come in and breathe energy into a franchise. But at the end of the day, they beat a Titans team that just got destroyed by the Bills, and they had to win at the last second with the 2-point conversion to do that. And then they eked it out against the Panthers, who we have as our number 32 team. A win is a win. They're still undefeated. Bigger test against the Cowboys coming up, but I'm just not ready to put them any higher than 21 at this point.
Yeah, like a win's a win. You're supposed to beat teams like that if you're a good team. We'll kind of wait and see. I think they have a fairly easy schedule. They play the Eagles a couple times. They play the Ravens. But overall, looking at it, I think they have a chance to stay in this tier of having a really good record, but maybe not doing well past that. But Saquon Barkley, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Just over 40 seconds until halftime. Why don't you give us number 20, and I'll try to get 19, and we'll kind of stop there.
All right, I have the Titans. So very devastating performance against the Bills. I think they're up there for the AFC South, but I think as for keeping that AFC South royalty, I think it just depends on a lot of things with that division. There are not a lot of good teams in that division. And then Derrick Henry we watched that game together. He looked slower.
Under 3 yards per carry, just no pop. Yeah,
no pop yet. So his crown is taken off for now. But I mean, I think we'll have some bursts. I think he has games like this throughout the season. And it's a Bills defense, so I'm not going to hold him too accountable for that. But I would love to see some pop from him eventually.
Yeah, they're lucky to be in a wide open division at this point. So that is, we don't have the chime because once again, I'm producing the show by myself today. But that is halftime. So we'll take a little breather. We'll finish up the power rankings. Quick reminder, everybody, if you aren't already, sign up for legitfootball.com, your free daily morning briefing. In 5 minutes or less, get caught up on all the top stories from around the NFL, direct to your inbox every single morning, 5 days a week. Legitfootball.com in your email address. It will always be free. Jimmy, why don't you let everybody know about NFL stats?
Go ahead and follow at NFL_stats. I post stats from everywhere throughout the season, some fun stats, some informational stats, and then just some news from around the league. So put the notifications on, but I will be around this. This will be my 10th season doing this, so I have experience, and I look forward to seeing you guys there.
The only stats account you need to follow on Twitter, at NFL_stats, and we'll be doing this every week. This is not a one-off guest. It'll be Jimmy from NFL Stats every single Wednesday doing this power ranking show. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the second half. We have gotten through 32 through 20, so we're not exactly halfway. So it's up to you and me to try to speed this up. We got to try to finish in the next 15 minutes. Like I said, guys, this is our first time doing this. Trying to stick to the 30-minute format. We'll get better as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and start the second half timer. We are at pick number 19, and I'm going to go ahead and put Bill Belichick's New England Patriots here. I had them in my rankings at 20. I had them just above the Steelers. You already put the Steelers, so we'll kind of put them there. Let's see if we can find them on here. There we go. Yeah, this is just a team. I have no confidence in their offense. All offseason, I've been just like, Josh McDaniels is gone. Replacing him with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, two defensive coaches, is not good. Installing a new offensive scheme and blocking scheme, not good. And they've really proven me right. They were one great Nelson Aguilar play away from not winning this game against a not so great Steelers team.
Yeah, not anything to diminish like Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar playing well. But I mean, they're just going to stay a mediocre team with some of the talent they have on their team. But you can only be so bad when you have Bill Belichick as your coach. So that's something to look forward to, and hopefully we'll see how long he sticks around. But
all right, number 18.
Yep, I had him right there. All right, I have the Dallas Cowboys. So they're an interesting team with Dak out. I don't know how different. Yeah, so
big discrepancy here. I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, so I like Micah Parsons. I mean, he has a lot of pass rush wins this season. I saw a stat he has 15 pass rush wins, which is like 7 more than any other team. But I think until Dak comes back, I think it's just kind of, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think Zeke's doing very well this season. But the defense is pretty solid, which is why I have him up here at 18. And hopefully we'll wait and see.
So you obviously have the Bengals higher, even though the Cowboys just beat them. That's interesting. Correct. I couldn't do that. And I had the Cowboys at 12, not because I believe in their offense, because I don't. I don't have them as a playoff team, but because there's just a lot of kind of mediocre and bad teams, it seems. It's very top-loaded, and I couldn't put them below the Bengals, who they literally just beat. So that's interesting. That's our first big discrepancy. I'm going to go ahead and jump into 17. Here I've got the Denver Broncos. So you think the Broncos are ahead of the Cowboys. Interesting. Before the season, I would have 100% agreed with this. But what I've seen from Nathaniel Hackett so far, honestly, one of the worst debuts, I think, as an NFL coach, even though he did win one of those 2 games, but it was against the Texans. And if it was any other team, even the Panthers, I think in that game, the Broncos would have ended up losing starting 0-2. The offense doesn't look good. The defense has had issues, especially in that Seattle game. Their pass rush has been spotty. There's just not a lot to like, but really it comes back to when you have those kind of clock management issues and you don't send your punt returner out on a 4th down, like, I'm going to question you as a coach. So until they start showing me more, I'm not going to have Denver very high on these rankings.
Yeah, I think with a new head coach and a new QB, they're going to have some fluffs and stuff. I had them around here as well. Some disappointing mistakes and stuff. I mean, they're getting booed at home, even when they're winning, because they should be winning by more. They should be doing well. But in terms of potential, I think they do have a chance to kind of come back and play a little better with the talent that they do have. And that's kind of how I feel with other teams as well.
Great. Let's move on to number 16.
Let's see. All right, I have the Detroit Lions. They've been playing pretty well so far. I think this is a good spot for them. They are playing very well. They have scored 35-plus points in both games. They've scored 35-plus points in 3 straight games for the first time in 60 years. Amon-Ra St. Brown's playing pretty well. Their offense is playing. They're letting up a lot of points, but I think around this spot, I'm excited to see kind of where they go from here.
I love this format. So I'm going to go with the Raiders next. I had them below the Lions, but because of the way the draft is playing out, I have to go ahead and put them ahead. We're going to get some crap on Twitter for sure. But yeah, Raiders 0-2. They're in a tough division. They played the Chargers fairly well. They were dominating Arizona until a lackluster second half. So I'm not ready to write them off as a team. The team I think is very talented, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Coaching needs to get a little better, especially with the play calling. Devontae Adams completely disappeared in that game. So I've got them right smack in the middle at 15. How about 14?
All right. I have the New Orleans Saints at that spot. I think Michael Thomas is playing pretty well. Winston is banged up, playing all right, but I think this is kind of where they'll stick around for a majority of the season. They played all right against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they kind of stayed in it for a lot of the game, and their defense is pretty well with Lattimore and Tyron. But I think they're just around this spot at 14.
I've got the Cardinals below the Saints, but I'll put them up a bit here. So I will put the Cardinals at 13. This is a team that I'm not high on. I will say this. Kyler Murray took that game over. If they let him do more of that, they will win more games. I think that this relies too much on Kingsbury scripting plays. I think that's a bad thing. Sometimes you just got to let Kyler do his thing. Clearly, that was the difference in the second half. But so many issues on the defensive side of the ball. So many issues with weapons until DeAndre Hopkins comes back. Rondale Moore is injured. There's just not a lot like that. Offensive line has not protected Kyler well at all. And they're in a very tough division. Nevertheless, the draft puts them at 13. So let's keep it rolling on to number 12.
Yep, and this gives me a chance to defend the Bengals. I have the Bengals at 12. I know they just lost to the Cowboys, but I think this is where I put it in my factor of potential in it a lot. I know he's been sacked 13 times over the past 2 games, which is insane, especially with how much money they put in the offensive line. But I think they have so many playmakers on defense, so many playmakers on offense. I think they will come back and provide a little spark after 2 weeks. I think it's I'm just not overreacting too much in these 2 weeks, especially with a loss against Cooper Rush led Cowboys is unfortunate, but I'm excited to see them turn it around.
I had Bengals at 13. As I mentioned earlier, I had Cowboys at 12, just right below.
You.
So the ranking for the Bengals, I'm in alignment with. We're slightly off on the Cowboys. Everyone else, though, we've been pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and put the 49ers at number 11. I know that the excitement is gone. I feel really bad for the Trey Lance injury, but that team is loaded across the board, and we've seen the ceiling for Jimmy as far as where he can take them. NFC Championship game twice, Super Bowl once. This is clearly a quarterback that's capable of taking this very, very talented roster and leading them far, just outside the top 10. If they can string together a couple wins, I could see them rising for sure. I love the talent of that defense. Love the weapons with Debo and Ayuk, and I think Jimmy brings a little bit more stability to that offense.
Yep.
All right, we got 8 minutes left and 10 spots.
All right, we're looking all right so far. We're getting a little faster. All right, so I had the 49ers above this team, but I'm going to go ahead and put the Vikings at 10. The Vikings, they have a lot of talent. They just didn't play well against the Eagles. They always seem to kind of be lackluster whenever they play the Eagles, but I think they have Justin Jefferson. I think they have some playmakers on the defensive side. I just think that game wasn't what they'll compete. I think Kirk Cousins he's not elite, obviously, but I think he's better than what he showed on Monday night. I think it was just the lights got to him.
And the Eagles played so well. Honestly, they were just dominating. I have the Vikings exactly at 10, so I'm in agreement with you there. I think we saw what they could be last week against Green Bay, so I think we'll see more of that going forward. At number 9, I'm going to go ahead and put the Baltimore Ravens. This is a team that was one crazy Tua Tyreek Waddle quarter away from being 2-0. I still like them. I picked them to win the AFC North before the season began. I think they were just riddled with injuries last year. They're healthier. They still have a few injuries on the defensive side of the ball. I think Lamar is playing at an MVP level through 2 games. J.K. Dobbins might come back this week. A lot to like about Baltimore.
Yep, and I think this is a kind of a tier up in terms of teams. I think this is where the teams kind of get a lot better.
Right.
But I had them in that same exact spot. And my next pick is the Packers. So some people might have them higher, but I have them at 8. And I think Aaron Jones has been great. I think their loss to the Vikings was interesting. I think it doesn't show a lot of what you're expected to see out of the Packers this season.
Something about Packers week 1. They got destroyed by the Saints last year. It's like just kind of write off Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in week 1, maybe?
Right. And I wouldn't say they even played completely well. They did dominate the Bears, but we obviously have the Bears pretty low on our rankings, and they always dominate the Bears, so I'm not going to take anything into account there. But I mean, they have Aaron Rodgers, getting used to no Devontae Adams, but he's starting to get the ball to some players. He always talks well of Alan Lazard, their defense, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary,
Jair Alexander. Yeah,
right. So I mean, they have defensive playmakers. That's why they're so high up. I just think I'm just kind of waiting to see how they play on offense without too many playmakers. But I think Aaron Rodgers will be just fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had the Packers at 6,
Okay.
higher than my favorite team, who I'm going to go ahead and place. I had them at number 8, but the Dolphins, look at that. They're making it into the top 7. I think we're gonna end up bumping them down a couple spots when they play Buffalo this week, but that doesn't matter. This is week 3. They haven't played Buffalo yet. They're undefeated. They absolutely controlled the Patriots throughout the entire game in week 1, and then what a performance by Tua, silencing the critics at least for 1 week with that amazing 4-touchdown performance in the fourth quarter. Their defense is already really good, bringing back not only the defensive talent but the coaching staff. Mike McDaniel's retaining Josh Byron and that defensive coaching staff. A lot to like about the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel 2-0 in his coaching debut.
Yep, and I had them at 6, and I put this team above them, I put this team below them, the Chargers. I had the Chargers at 6. There had some offensive line issues this past week. There's only been 2 sacks against Herbert, but he's getting hit a lot, and Khalil Mack's showing some upside. But I mean, the Chargers have a lot of playmakers with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen will be back. Mike Williams, they need to get him a little more. He continues to have up and down games, but with all of the pass rushers and defensive stars that they added, I think they're going to be pretty good this season.
I actually think they played better than the Chiefs in that Thursday night game, and it was just a matter of the Chiefs. That pick 6 sealed the deal. Mahomes had 4 or 5 passes that should have been intercepted. I had the Chargers at 4. They are a team I had picked in the preseason to go to the AFC Championship game. They have not disappointed. I thought they looked amazing against the Raiders in week 1. I thought they looked great against the Chiefs in a very, very tough division matchup. But still, 6, I like that spot. So number 5, I'm going to go ahead and put the defending Super Bowl champion Rams. I had them at 7 in my rankings, but that's how the draft plays out. No need to panic yet. They lost to, no spoilers, the team that will likely end up in number 1 in our draft here in the Bills in week 1. We're absolutely dominating the Falcons before letting them back into the game. Offensive line is a huge question mark, but otherwise, a lot to like. Cooper Kupp still doing Cooper Kupp things. Stafford gets into his little throws, but overall, I still think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. I've got them at 5 here.
Yeah, this is where the factors of last season and their potential will obviously rocket them up here unless there's a dramatic downfall with them. But at 4, I had them a little bit further back at 5, but I have the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. I think their defense is amazing with Devin White, Shaquille Barrett, Carlton Davis, Levante David. I mean, so many playmakers. They're only allowing 6.5 points per game. They have Tom Brady. They're wide receivers. I mean, it's kind of falling apart right now with Mike Evans suspended, Chris Godwin still injured. Who's going to step up there? But it's Tom Brady. It's a good defense. Something good is going to come of that, and they deserve to be in the top 5.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of question marks as far as offensive weapons. Evans' suspension was upheld today. He will not be available. Is Julio going to be available? We're still waiting on Godwin to come back. Russell Gage should be back. But that defense has been phenomenal. Maybe, outside of maybe Buffalo, the best defense in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. I had the Bucs at 5, so kind of right in this spot here. We have got just over 2 minutes left. I think we're going to finish right on time. Awesome job, us. So for the number 3 spot, I am going to go ahead and put the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's a bit of a surprise. That's going to leave the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills as the top 2 spots. A lot of this has to do, yes, I don't believe much in Arizona, so I think there's not a lot to take out from that week 1 game. When you give Andy Reid that much time, he's going to beat anybody by that much, and Arizona, I mentioned earlier, has a lot of problems. I think this stems from the fact that I thought the Chargers were a little bit better. As I said, Mahomes had a bunch of interceptions that were actually dropped. I'm still very high in Kansas City, but the way these other 2 teams looked on Monday night have me convinced to be in the top 2. Who were you going with the number 2 pick? We got just over a minute left to finish this out.
So I had these swapped around again, but I have the Eagles. I'll throw down the Eagles at 2. I think they've been very solid. They have a great offensive line, which helps their rushing attack and their scheme that they're putting together a lot. First week, they had 4 different players get a rush touchdown, which is awesome. Jalen Hurts was amazing this past week against the Vikings defense. I'm excited. I had them at 3 only because I'm excited, just waiting to see how well they can do this season. But
did you have the Chiefs at 2?
I did have the Chiefs at 2. Okay. Yeah.
My question, and I did notice Jeff Schesser, friend of the show and Chiefs fan, Shame, put a comment in the live chat. So my thinking here, Jeff and others, is the Eagles just looked so good against a team that I thought looked so good in week 1 against the Packers. I was really high in this Kevin O'Connell-led Vikings team on both sides of the ball, and the Eagles just dominated them. To me, they looked like the second best team that I have witnessed in the NFL this year. And the first one with 20 seconds left is obviously the Buffalo Bills. My question is can anybody slow them down? Can anybody even come close to beating them? They have defeated the defending Super Bowl champions in week 1, blew them out of the water, and then beat the AFC number 1 seed from last year, blew them out of the water to where Tannehill and Henry were on the sidelines before the fourth quarter even started. I don't know if you heard the timer go off. That is exactly 30 minutes. Quick thoughts on our entire rankings, and if you want to throw in some thoughts on the Bills real quick as we wrap this up, feel free, Jimmy.
Yeah, the Bills, whenever they win big. I think I saw something like they have a long streak of wins being double digits, so I'm excited to see how they continue that. Their offense is stellar, the defense is stellar. I'm really, really loving seeing Von Miller just go at it at his age after he got that big contract. He loves playing football, and I love watching him play. He's always in the backfield, which is awesome to see. And then they don't even have Tre'Davious White yet. So
they have no clear weaknesses across the board. You can say maybe their offensive line, but their offensive line is middle of the road. They don't need them to be gangbusters, especially with Josh Allen back there. Allen is playing at an MVP level. Their weapons are Stephon Diggs, looking like the best receiver in the NFL through 2 weeks. Their defense, as you mentioned, best defense, best offense. You got to put them number 1. I'm curious to see that Dolphins game this week. I'm not too confident in Miami. So, guys, we are going to put a graphic together, and we will release it on both Jimmy's Twitter, the NFL Stats account, as well as mine. Maybe we'll put it in other places like Instagram. I don't do a lot on Instagram, but this will give me an excuse to do it. So, for those of you who didn't get to see this live, you will get to see a all 32 will put a graphic together for the Power Rankings. We're going to do this every Wednesday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific if you want to watch us draft live. And feel free to tell us what we did wrong. This is, like I said, we've got our own rankings. They were pretty aligned, short of maybe a Cowboys team. But you guys are all going to have your opinions. We'd love to hear what we did right. Thank you guys so much if you're podcasting for listening. If you've never checked out the YouTube and you're a podcast listener, go to 30 Minutes of Football YouTube channel. You can see all the past videos. You can watch all the live shows, or just keep listening in the audio. That's fine. Tomorrow we will have the Thursday night preview, and Friday, of course, we have our week 3 preview and game picks. Jimmy, thank you for doing this. Looking forward to doing this every Wednesday with you. Any last words before we wrap up?
I don't love power rankings. I think they're it's hard exactly to see once you put it on there, unless you listen to the show and kind of get a rundown. It's very hard to rank a lot of these teams. I don't do power rankings very often. And I look at power rankings and I'm like, okay, like I don't hate them, love them. Cause I know at the end of the day, there's way too many factors to really take this too much into factor, but it's fun. I will say that. So it's very fun to kind of talk about football, talk about every team and see how wrong we are after 2 weeks or after the season, but after talking about it just 2 weeks into the season.
And that's why we do this. We do this for fun. What is the NFL if not fun? That's why we do this game that we love. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Like I said, check out Twitter at NFL_stats, at _legit football to see an actual graphic with our rankings. We'll try to have that for you maybe by tomorrow. We'll get quicker going forward. We'll see. Thank you guys for watching and listening. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. See, now this is what happens when I produce. I got to find the exit. Where's the exit show? There we go. See ya. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.